My wife and I have just come back from an unforgettable 2-week trip to Sri Lanka and the Maldives. Although we left at crazy times, in the middle of a global pandemic and also on the edge of a European war, the trip itself was really successful. We did learn a few things along the way, however, and we want to teach you those things so that you can have a successful trip too. Before I continue, please subscribe to the channel. I do plan to make lots more videos like this, and every subscription is a vote for me to do just that. I'll link at the end to 2 individual videos that I plan to do on both Sri Lanka and the Maldives. Those will go into much more detail on each country in particular. However, this video is intended to focus on the itinerary that we used in order to make the most of the 2 weeks that we had on our holiday. Both Sri Lanka and the Maldives have been hugely impacted by numerous events over the past couple of years, including COVID-19 restrictions. And this video isn't intended to make anything any worse for anyone. Therefore, for any businesses that we visited that we wouldn't recommend, we're just not going to mention them in this video. I'm sure over time, any issues that we did have will be ironed out over time. For any businesses that we do recommend, I'm going to mention their names in this video and also hopefully link to them in the description. If I do mention a specific business in this video, that means that we definitely recommend them and we had a great time using them. So with just 2 weeks to cram in as much as possible, we decided on visiting 8 areas within Sri Lanka and 1 island in the Maldives. We kicked off by heading straight to Galle after landing in Colombo International Airport. Arranging a car in Sri Lanka is really easy and reasonably priced. I'll go into some more details about exactly how to arrange a car in Sri Lanka in my specific Sri Lanka video. We used an agent whose details I'll provide in the description and probably just below here for most of the journeys that we did throughout Sri Lanka. The majority of the communication that we had with them was through Facebook Messenger, and this suited me perfectly. The cars were always on time and the drivers were super helpful. The journey to Galle, which party piece features an old Dutch colonial and then later British colonial fortress, takes about 2 hours. Arriving at our accommodation just outside of Galle town centre, we were totally blown away. Ginganga Lodge is perhaps one of the nicest hotels we've ever stayed at. A small hotel with a handful of rooms. It's a tropical paradise filled with hand-picked pieces of art and incredibly styled private rooms. The staff here are super friendly, and the small touches such as the staff members showing you directly to your room by torchlight after finishing an evening meal is a perfect personal touch. Galle Fort was actually a lot bigger than I'd imagined, filled with lots of restaurants and shops. There's also a wall surrounding the entirety of the fortress, which you can walk along and take in the surrounding sea views. After spending 2 days in Galle, hanging out mainly at our hotel and also heading into the Galle Fortress, it was time for us to take a day trip to a nearby beach called Unawatuna. Here we enjoyed a massage, certainly not one of the best on our trip. However, the main strip itself, which follows the outside of the beach, is filled with great looking shops and restaurants. When we come back to Sri Lanka, we'll probably spend some more time in Unawatuna rather than just coming for a day trip. On the morning of day 4, we took a 1.5 hour car drive over to the southern coastal town of Tangalle. Here we really did feel that the devastating effects of COVID-19 had really taken a toll on the area. We probably won't be recommending our hotel that we used whilst we stayed here, but we did have a great time hanging out by the beach, and especially at a beach bar called The Lounge. On the 5th day, we left the beach town of Tangalle and headed east along the coast towards Yala National Park. Arriving at our accommodation, a Sri Lankan chain hotel called Cinnamon Wild Hotel, which is placed handily 2 minutes away from the entrance of Block 1 of Yala National Park. We were very surprised at how well thought out the hotel is. Nature literally puts on an incredible performance as if it's on cue. We had a family of wild boar, an elephant, and even a couple of crocodiles on the lake just outside of the accommodation itself. With this in mind, if you do want to leave your accommodation late at night to go to the restaurant or the bar, you will need to call the reception, who will send somebody to escort you in order to keep you safe. Now on to the reason that we headed to Yala National Park. We opted for 2 safari experiences, one in the afternoon of day 6 and 1 in the morning of day 7. We took a recommendation from a friend to go on safari with Camp Leopard, and honestly, this was easily the highlight of our trip. Mark, the owner, introduces you as the guide and introduces you to his driver. We were also joined by a friend of his who was there to take photos along the way. I'll go into more detail around how the safaris in Sri Lanka work, alongside the combination of driver, guide, and how ticket price all comes into play in my specific Sri Lanka video. Mark knew so much about the animals, and we spotted so many that we wouldn't have noticed had we not decided to go with a guide. We saw a leopard, a sloth bear, elephants, and even 2 pairs of extremely rare black-necked storks, just to name a few. After our super early start at 5:30 in the morning on day 7 for our safari, it was time to head back to the hotel and get ready for our next trip. We met the driver who was going to take us the long journey from Yala National Park all the way to Kandy via Yala. This is where I will mention, driving in Sri Lanka is nothing like you will have ever experienced before. You will find yourself weaving in and out of cars, narrowly avoiding large trucks, families on scooters, and even the occasional herd of cows who've decided it's their turn to cross the road. You really do just have to relax into the experience and realise that everyone here is hyper aware of their surroundings, and everyone just kind of dances past each other unscathed. Leaving Yala at around 10 AM, we drove for nearly 3 hours, climbing further and further up into the hills, passing many tea plantations with incredible views. Yala is over 1,000 metres above sea level, and you certainly notice that, having snaked your way up the side of some fairly treacherous feeling roads. We stopped very briefly in Yala, enough time to grab a bite to eat, a nice coffee, and some snacks to head back onto the road, hopping back into our car for the 3.5-hour ride to Kandy. Kandy is very much a city, renowned as the cultural capital of Sri Lanka. You really will feel the more up-paced way of life, as a contrast from the coastal towns we've been visiting. In Kandy, we stayed in a beautiful hotel with some incredible service. The hotel is called Clove Villa Kandy and is the old home of the old mayor. Each room is incredibly well decorated, and the pool table on the mezzanine floor is a great place to unwind with a lion, the local Sri Lankan beer, after a busy day looking around Kandy. Now for us, we were using Kandy sort of like a base for a trip to Sigiriya, which brings us to day 8, waking up super early again and leaving at 6 AM to drive the nearly 2-hour drive to the 8th wonder of the world. Sigiriya is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and as I just mentioned, it's heralded the 8th wonder of the world. Walking the perfectly manicured garden heading towards the metamorphic rock, you can clearly see why. There are thousands of steps to climb, but it's certainly worth persevering to the top. I filmed the whole thing, and you can see that over on my other YouTube channel. The link will be in the description. At the summit, you'll find the remains of the palace that was built a long time ago by the king. It's a perfect place to take in the surrounding views of the landscape. After exploring the grounds and literally exiting through the gift shop, it was time to head back to Kandy for a relaxing night. Tomorrow, we're taking another car ride to Negombo. Day 9, and it's another 2-hour car journey, heading our way back towards Colombo Airport. Colombo Airport is actually situated closer to Negombo and is about 40 or 50 minutes away from Colombo city centre. We chose to stay here in Negombo because it was much closer to the airport and would make it much easier for us to catch our early morning flight. We really like the look of Negombo Beach and will definitely be coming back here to explore the next time we visit Sri Lanka. Day 10, and it's another early start. This time we have a 5:30 AM flight to Maldives in the Maldives. If you found this video useful so far, please consider hitting that subscribe button. So now we're on the way to the Maldives, which is a really quick flight. By the time the crew have come round with your drink and snack, you can see the aeroplane angling towards landing. Approaching Male is incredible to see. The amazing bridge that connects the airport to the main city is really something to behold from the sky. This is a huge contrast from the horrendous immigration part of the airport, which is easily one of the busiest and worst organised we've ever seen. Not a great welcome to what is supposed to be a super luxurious holiday. Once we made it through passport control, you're into a large foyer with hundreds of people holding plaques max, and behind them, hundreds of desks for all of the resorts that are dotted across the country. We finally found a rep for our resort, and they took us over to the check-in desk, ready for the seaplane that's going to take us to our resort. This is where it gets really exciting. We were taken by bus to a large lounge which has spectacular views of the taking off and landing of all of the seaplanes. Hopping onto our plane with about 8 other people, we're heading off to our resort. Nothing will prepare you for the incredible views that you'll have of all of the surrounding islands in low flight. Landing in the sea about 100 meters from our resort, a boat heads out to collect us. We arrived at our island at about 12 noon. It's time to follow the man with the drum to reception to get us checked in. Now I'll give some more details in the specific Maldives video that I do, but here is a bone of contention for me. Each night of our stay in the Maldives costs more than the rest of our trip combined. So I expected the check-in experience to be a little bit more luxurious than some of the check-in experiences that we had in Sri Lanka, however this wasn't the case. Our host was actually a little abrupt, and she didn't give us some of the information that you would usually expect about the resort. However, our room more than made up for this. I'll pause here a second and let you see for yourself. We're here for 3 days and 4 nights and opted for an overwater bungalow with a plunge pool. We were amazed to see that we were given a west-facing room. This means we get the most incredible sunset every night. Now there's not a lot to do here on a small island in the Maldives, but that's exactly what we are here to do. Nothing. Our days pretty much centered around waking up to incredible views, eating, observing whatever incredible marine life had decided to grace us that day, drinking, eating some more, drinking some more, watching an incredible sunset, and then starting all over again. Our resort actually did have some pretty cool activities, including snorkeling, paddleboarding, kayaking, and even boat trips. However, given the pretty jam-packed agenda we had in Sri Lanka, we were both just ready to enjoy our surroundings. Now, it was honestly pretty difficult to say goodbye to our wonderful island so soon. However, we're now hopping back over to Sri Lanka for 2 more nights before heading home to London. Moving in complete reverse to our outbound trip via a boat, a seaplane, and a rather short international flight, we're back in Sri Lanka, this time actually making the trip from Colombo International Airport into Colombo city centre. This is where things deteriorated a little bit for us. I actually deliberated with myself whether or not to include this part. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I wasn't going to give any poor reviews to specific businesses, which I won't. However, for us, Colombo was without a doubt the least enjoyable part of our trip, for a number of reasons that I won't go into. In spite of our pretty disappointing stay in Colombo, it was a perfect opportunity to enjoy a quick trip to a spa, White by Spa Salon, which was extremely enjoyable. We even bought some of their products to enjoy at home. We were so sad to be leaving Sri Lanka after an unforgettable 14-day trip. We met some incredible people, saw some amazing things, and made memories that will last forever. However, to dampen our disappointment at going home, we decided to upgrade our return flights back to London from economy class to business class. I actually plan to make a separate video about whether or not business class is worth the many multiples above economy class, and I'll link that here once it's finished. You'll probably be quite surprised at my opinion and a number of things that weren't quite as they'd seem. So there we have it. We consider this to be a pretty great 2-week itinerary around Sri Lanka and over to the Maldives. I'll try to answer any questions you have, so please tap them in the comments below and give this video a thumbs up. If you've made it this far through, please consider subscribing to the channel. It costs you literally nothing and it lets me know that I did an okay job. Please check out this video for more information about Sri Lanka, including how to arrange a driver, what the situation is with currency, local and foreign, and all about activities and excursions such as the safaris that we went on. Please check out this video for a detailed look at the Maldives, including what we think is the best way to book, how to choose your resort, and how to get there. See you next time.